Hello, hello. So this is a continuation of the last video. In the last video, we connected our deployment clients, so the search head and the heavy forwarder, in this instance to our management host, which is serving as our deployment server as well. So in this video, we're going to be pushing out an app to those deployment clients. So this is the same way you would push out apps to like your Windows servers or workstations or whatever other clients you have. So I'm hopping on to our management host, and to start off with, let me zoom in a little bit. We have connected the two forwarders. So here's the two forwarders. One is our search head, and the other one is the heavy forwarder. Again, in this environment, I'm just gonna connect the search head to the deployment server. You may or may not want to do that, and if you have a search head cluster, obviously you don't want to connect that to a deployment server. And I still haven't figured out why the client name shows up as a GUID, but we'll do that later. So on the management host, I have Config Explorer already installed, and I'll be using Config Explorer to do this. You could do this from the backend as well. There are the commands. I'll try to go through those at the end here, but I'm just going to show you how to do it using Config Explorer from the GUI, just because it's a lot easier. So to start with, like I outlined in here, for the deployment server functionality, the apps live inside of the deployment apps directory. So any of the apps that you have installed in the deployment apps directory can be pushed out to your deployment clients. So we have our regular apps directory. So this is all the apps that are installed on the current instance that we're on. We have the manager apps, which is going to control our indexer cluster. And then we also have deployment apps, which is where we want to put in apps to push out to our deployment clients. So let me pull up something real quick. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to push out the Config Explorer app itself to the search head and the heavy forwarder. The search head already has it, but I'm just going to push it out again. And the heavy forwarder does not have it, so we can see it live. So if you have Config Explorer, if you don't have Config Explorer, you'll need to like WinSCP it over or SSH in and transfer it over, somehow get the app in here and unzipped. With Config Explorer, it's super easy. You just click the add button and you put, either click choose file or just drag and drop the file. So this is Config Explorer, and make sure you click the extract file after upload and click upload. And here you can see it's been untarred, uncompressed, and it's here for us. I am going to check something real quick. So there's this setting in Config Explorer for write access equals true. You have to set that. So I'm going to go to my local install of Config Explorer, go to local, and let's hit the mic. Go to that config. So this is a custom config file that comes with Config Explorer, and this is what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is just copy this config. That's in my clipboard, and that's Windows V if you're on Windows to view your clipboard history. You do have to enable it the first time you use it. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to copy the Config Explorer config name, and I'm going to come over to deployment apps, go to the deployment apps version of Config Explorer, and I'll make a local directory in here, create a new file, name it that, and plop this in here so that I don't have to manually go in and enable the setting on the heavy forwarder. And again, we don't need to copy all this stuff. We can just copy over what we actually wanted to change, which was that. So the app is ready to be deployed. So we're going to go back over to forwarder management. We can see our two forwarders. We need to, in the configurations page, they recently changed this. This used to be called apps, I think. These are the two apps that we have. This ships with Splunk, so we have this one. The Config Explorer app is what we're going to push out. But before we push out the app, we're going to go make a server class. So the server class is just like a group of clients that you push it out to. So you might make a group of clients or you might make a server class for your Windows host and a separate one for your Linux host. That way, if there is an app that's Windows specific, like the Windows TA, you can push it out to your Windows clients. And then if there's something that is Linux specific, you can push it out to the Linux hosts. And then you can make a server class for all hosts as well. So if you have like some kind of filtering TA or an inputs TA or something like that that needs to go out to everything, you can push that out as well. So we're going to create a new server class. I'm going to call it, you can pick a naming convention as well. It's really nice when you can pick a naming convention and stick to it. If you have different departments in your org, you might want to incorporate that into the naming convention, but I'm just going to go with something super simple. I'm going to do BC at the beginning for Barely Chili, the domain name, just so I know, like I can easily look at the list of server classes or list of apps, and any of them that have the BC prefix, I know it's just something custom that I created. So I'll do BC underscore, and this is going to be the server class. I'll call it Splunk all. So it's going to be all of my Splunk components. I will, and Splunk is in, it's going to be just the enterprise installs. So Splunk all is here. We're going to go in and we're going to configure it. They changed this again very recently. So agents, I don't know why they're just changing up the names. This is going to be the clients, and then here are the applications. We're going to click edit configuration, and we're going to select what app we want to put in here. But the very first time, we're going to close out of that actually, and go back to the forwarder management page, because the very first time you push out an app, there is a change we have to make. So here, right here, this restart agent, wow, they really went through and renamed everything. This restart agent is set to no by default. And if it's set to no, what will happen is the app gets pushed out. So like Config Explorer will get pushed out to the client or the agent, and it'll be installed, but it might not take effect. Like all the new configs that are in there might not take effect until Splunk restarts, either manually or, for some other reason, Splunk restarts. We can force it to do a restart just to make sure that the changes take effect. So we're going to click on the app, and this, we don't really need to do anything. Where did they put it? Oh, I think I have Dark Reader on. Okay, there we go. We can see it a little easier now. So it says that it has to be on a server class first. I feel like that wasn't true previously. That's interesting. Before there was an issue where if you added it to a server class before you set that, it would not do a restart properly. So I guess we'll go through here. So we're going back to the server class we just created. I'll add in the app into the server class first. So edit configuration, add in the app. Oh, we gotta click it now. Save. So the app is in here, and I'm sure we can go to it from here. So yeah, I'm gonna do the little drop down, click view details. Again, we haven't chosen any of the agents yet, so it's not gonna deploy out. So I'm gonna do view details on the app. So these things light up now. So I'll do restart agent, and we'll go back to the server class again. So we're back in the server class. The app is here. It's going to be enabled, and it's going to restart Splunk after it gets the app. So now let's go to agents. We're going to click edit agent assignment, and we can put in whatever we want here. So this takes comma separated lists. So I can take in like HF, and as soon as I type in HF, I can click preview and then see which one's matched. If you have hundreds of clients in here, you can go to like any of these options to filter down onto like which ones actually matched or which ones didn't match. It does support wildcards. I don't think it supports regex. And you can do comma separated. So I can say HF comma SH, so the heavy forwarder and the search head, click preview, make sure they're both selected. And I'm just going to manually list these two because I don't want, if there's a new component that's added, I don't want it to automatically get the config explorer. I just don't want the config explorer being on everything. So I'm just going to list it here. You can filter it by machine type. So I only have Linux, you'll see Mac OS, Windows, and so on here. And another method or another filter you have is exclude. You can do a wildcard here. Click preview, it'll add everything, and then you can specifically exclude certain hosts like that. So I'm just going to list that, click preview, make sure it's good, and I'm going to click save. So as soon as I click save, it's going to start getting ready to deploy that app. So the next time this heavy forwarder polls the deployment server, it's going to realize that there's a server class that it's part of now, and it's going to know that it needs to pull that app as part of its config. So once it gets the app, since we set the restart agent, we should see that it starts restarting. We will wait for this to happen. I don't know what the polling interval was that we set. I think it's every 60 seconds by default. But as soon as it gets it, it should restart. There we go. So the heavy forwarder dropped off, and the same thing should be true for the search head. I don't know if the search head came back or if it hasn't restarted yet. Oh, looks like it just restarted. So I'll give this a second and I'll be right back. See if this is back. There we go. The heavy forwarder is back. Log in. The search head is back. I'm going to log in there. So the search head might look a little different, which we'll take a look. So here's the heavy forwarder. It has config explorer, and this is the normal warning. It's not telling us to enable the setting. If we go to the settings, we can see here's the config that we sent it without any of the additional stuff in there that's from default. So we're in the apps directory here. So going to the Excalibur, the config explorer was here before. Is there a laser pointer? Yep. It was here. We added the app into the deployment apps directory. We created a server class. We set up the app to restart Splunk after it's installed. And then we assigned that app to the server class. And once the search head or the heavy forwarder checked in with the deployment server, it saw that there's a new app that belongs to it, and it pulled that back down and installed it and restarted Splunk. So now it doesn't live in deployment apps. On the client, it'll live in the apps directory. And we have config explorer somewhere over here. There it is. And local, if we look at the actual config, here's the config that we put in here without all that extra stuff that we didn't want. Again, if we wanted that stuff, we can go in and see the example in default. So that is it there. On the search head, let me take a look, see what the behavior was. I don't know if it's changed from older versions. Yes, it did. So it just wiped it and put its config that it got from the deployment server in here. I think I remember in an older version, it wouldn't wipe the app if it already saw it was installed, and it would only do that when there's like major changes or the app gets removed and re-added to the deployment server or something like that. But it's good to know it does give you like a clean slate to start with here. So there we go. That's it. Another useful thing to do with the deployment server is if you want to see if the client that you're currently on is connected to a deployment server, you can do the settings drop down, go over to the server settings, and go to deployment client, and we can see that it is a client of this deployment server, and it also gives you information about the server class and the app apps that are assigned to it from that server class, and the status is enabled. So if you just need to really quickly check if it's hooked up to a deployment server and what apps it's getting from a deployment server, like if you do this drop down, you don't know if Config Explorer is locally installed or if it's pushed out from a deployment server, you can just come here and see that. So that's pretty much it. That's how we push out an app from the deployment server. I guess we didn't do the backend method, but I guess I'll save that for another video. It'll be the same thing except from terminal, a little bit more hands-on. So see you guys in the next one.